that just shows what kind of a leader and a World Ventures great representative you are. I guess what we want you to do is just give a little bit of your testimonial, and then when you're done, we'll just open up for some questions and answers. Is that okay with you?
That sounds good to me. Well, I appreciate the nice words, and thanks for having me, guys. And those of you that get a chance to hang out with Kylie, I'm sure you guys already know this, but she's one of the, most kind-hearted, biggest sweethearts on the planet, and just one of our favorite people in World Ventures, absolutely. And just, servant leadership, all that stuff, just a great big heart. So I love the heck out of you, and I appreciate you big time. And for those of you that I haven't met, which is probably most of you guys, I'm out here in Denver. I got started when I was 19, and I had never done anything like this before. I've been in this pretty much my entire adult life. I'm 32 now, so it's going on. I think I hit 13 years this month, which is crazy because this is really all I know. And so I was going to school and, starting out my freshman year, I didn't have any business background, didn't have any entrepreneurs in my family. I didn't have any sales background. My best buddy called me up, just said, "Hey, I got something you got to see," and came and showed it to me. And I signed up just because I trusted him. But I had a lot of my buddies that were getting out of school with a lot of debt, so I didn't really want to wind up in that boat. And then, moving back home and not getting a job and stuff. So I wasn't like looking for stuff, but, I was kind of open for it. And also on the same token, I'm a pretty natural, those of you that do know me, I'm a pretty naturally introverted person. So, virtually everything about World Ventures, still to this day, to some degree, makes me very uncomfortable because I didn't like talking in front of people, didn't like talking to people for that matter. Just literally never saw myself doing anything like this. But when I saw it again, I trusted my buddy, and I just had a really good gut feeling like this was something that could be really big for me, even though I didn't really understand or didn't really I didn't know what that was going to look like, right? I just had that really good gut feeling. So we jumped in and started doing some little travel parties a couple nights a week, doing some little presentations. And I was able to make my money back in my first month. And then about a month went by and not a whole lot was happening. And then thankfully, Mark and Brian Brown, I'm sure you guys know some of those names, but they were telling me about this training that was coming up in Minnesota and how we needed to go. And I had just spent $400 to get in. I made my money back, but I spent it just as quickly as I made it. So I was still broke. I didn't have any income coming in at all other than just what World Ventures was. And so they were pitching me on coming to this training. And I honestly, I didn't want to go. I went kicking and screaming. I didn't want to go. I didn't have, we can always come up with the money, but I didn't have the money on hand. I figured when they said training, I thought about, like sitting in class at college in the lecture room. And I just, I hate that all week. Like, why do I want to spend my weekend doing that, much less spend an extra $300 to go do it and drive across the country? So I was just not having it, but they just like wore me out, cause they had listened to they hadn't been to one, but they had been to a smaller like Saturday training that they drove to Phoenix for. And so they had an idea of what it might be like. So they just beat me over the head with it. Were relentless. And I finally just caved. And, we ended up coming up with some money, drove out to Minnesota through a blizzard, went to that training. And that weekend changed the direction of my entire life. I just can't, I'm sure a lot of you guys have been to the event. Some of you maybe haven't because you're newer, but, that weekend I got a chance to meet Mark Cassetta, our director of training, Wayne, the owner, a lot of the top people. And that's really when World Ventures got into me, and that's really the big thing is, it's one thing when you join, but it's, and get into World Ventures, but when World Ventures gets into you, that's when things really take on a new life. And that's when it really got into my heart space, went from my head to my heart. And I just left. I remember learning a lot of great stuff, right? Because there's certain skills and certain things that you need to learn mechanically with our business. But it's really more of your belief level, you're right. And so when I went there, my belief level just went through the roof. And, it just really got inside of me. And I came out of there just, talking, saying the same words, just, have a different music behind it playing. And I remember learning that weekend that we build, from event to event. And I remember Mark saying that weekend that, there's like, 5 skills that you want to get good at in this business, like inviting, presenting, closing, training, and promoting. And he said, you don't have to be good at a lot of these things. You just have to be good at a few of them. So you can suck, at closing, you can suck at presenting, you could suck at training. But if you get really good at inviting, right, just getting people in front of it, even a, blind squirrel finds it every now and again. So if you can get good at inviting, you can suck at closing, all that stuff, but you're eventually going to get the people that sign up. And then if you can get good at promoting, like getting people to the events, then the events are going to train your people. They're going to build the belief. They're going to, do a lot of the multiplying work. And so if you focus on that stuff, then you can really get, make a lot of money in this business. And so I left there that weekend, really feeling relieved because again, I'm a pretty non-confrontational person. So closing is probably like my least favorite thing. Because it's just not me. I love to sort, and I'm glad that we're in the sorting business and not in the selling business. I'm still not, the best trainer, presenter, speaker, all that stuff. But one thing I did get good at was inviting. I can get people in front of it, and and I focused on getting people to the trainings, right? And so that's what we did. We left there making that decision that we were never going to miss a training, and we were going to never be there with less people. So that's what we focused on. We'd go home, started doing our travel parties, getting people in front of the information. And then the ones that joined, which wasn't a whole lot in the beginning, but the ones that joined, we just beat them over the head to go to this next training. So we'd be driving to LA, to Dallas, to Nashville, to Florida, going to these events every single month, building from event to event. But each time we came with more people because we were so sold out on it, right? And that's kind of like one of the main things in promoting trainings is it's hard. Like if you're going and you're already signed up for it and you're going, it's a million times easier to promote a training you're going to than trying to get people to go to something that you're not committed to, right? And so because we were so sold out on it, it's like, I wasn't taking anybody's excuses because I had to do so many different things to come up with the money every time to get out there. And, we had to, finagle all these different things. And so since I wasn't buying my own excuses, I damn sure didn't have to buy somebody else's excuses. And so we just wore them out on it. So event to event, and then that's really what built our whole business. That's been my whole philosophy since day one. And obviously we've gotten better at, some of the skills in between, but that's really been the main focus. And after just to give you an idea, because things didn't, pop overnight for us. It took a little while to really get it going. My first year, I made $8,000. Those of you because most people that join are doing it part-time, right? Most people have a job, they got a business, they got a career, they already got money coming in, right? And so if you make $8,000 part-time in your first year, it's a cool story, right? Because how many people out there, that would like to make an extra $8,000 for the year, right? They could do that in savings, pay away debt. It's a good story. Me, I was full-time. Like this is all I've ever done to make money. So when you make $8,000 full-time in your first year, that sucks, right? Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody gets fired up over $8,000 full-time because that's a pay cut for a lot of people. But so I made $8,000 my first year. My second year, I made $18,000. My third year, I made $26,000. And my fourth year, I made $36,000. So it was growing a little incrementally, but still, this was all I was doing, right? I eat, slept, and breathed World Ventures. And, it wasn't going as fast as I wanted it to go for sure. Cause there was people that were joining that were in for, a year. I'd been in for 4 years that were just blowing right past me. And so it's frustrating to some degree. And I get that, right? Cause you go through all these different emotions while you're building this business. But after our fourth year is when it just started to pop. And it wasn't any one thing specifically. It was a lot of things kind of coming together because what a lot of people got to understand is, everybody comes to World Ventures, in a different place in their life, right? So, and the best analogy I ever heard was like playing football, right? If your objective is to, get in the end zone to score a touchdown, right? To hit whatever rank or whatever goal that you're shooting for, you're trying to get into the end zone. So some people, when they join World Ventures, they've already had a lot of personal development. They've already had a lot of success in their life. They've already made a lot of contacts, like a David Peach, for example, who hits IMD in 10 months and 5 days, makes $500,000 in his first year. People like that, like they're only like 5 yards away from the end zone when they join. So they just punch it in real quick. But again, they had a whole, life before that prepped them for that, right? So they were only 5 yards away. And then there's other people that are 20 yards away or maybe 50 yards away. Maybe a football field away. And me, like I was like 20 football fields away. I couldn't even see the end zone. So it just takes time for some people to build those skills, to build that belief, to build the credibility, all that stuff. But if you just keep moving, eventually you're going to get there. You just can't quit along the way. And so I feel like, we'd finally gone through 9 football fields, after 4 years. And then after the 5th year, it started to crank for us. And so my 4th year, I went from 36,000 to my 5th year, I made 190. I went from making like $1,200 a month to $10,000 a month within like a 90-day swing because our team started to crank. And, I went, so 190, then it was 360 the next year, then it was 400, then it was 500, then it was 500 plus. And so my first 4 years combined, I made like 88,000 total. And then the next 4 years combined, I made like some $1 million, and our income went through the roof. But again, it was because of a lot of different things, but we were really just building that foundation, and you really have to go into this with that long-term mentality where, you're just going to do it until, like I was in the business and going to the trainings, and I fell in love with it. And I just decided, like, I'm just going to, and I remember going to a training and I befriended Mark, our director of training, Mark Aceta. And I remember being at one of the trainings, maybe a couple of years in, and, he just looked at me because I probably had a frustrated look on my face. And he was like, dude, you need to relax. Like, I was probably 21 or 22 at the time. He's like, dude, you just need to chill and just enjoy the process, because even if it takes you till you're 24, 25 to figure this thing out, like, you're still light years ahead of a lot of people out there. So you need to just have fun with it. Stop stressing out so much. And again, at the trainings, I just decided this was what I was going to do. I didn't care how long it was going to take, what it was going to look like. I could never, honestly, in the beginning, see myself hitting IND or getting rich, any of that stuff. That was just not really in my belief space. But what I did believe was that if I did it long enough and got good enough at it, that eventually I could make enough money to pay my bills to where I didn't have to go get some dead-end job that I didn't want to do. And I was okay with that, right? That's all I really wanted, was just to be able to do World Ventures full-time, just have fun with it, go on some trips, go to the trainings, be around my family. And that's cool, right? And that's where and so I was just going to do it until that happened. So there was really no like exit plan. And yeah, along the way, like, you have a lot of frustrating periods. Like, there's times where I mentally like wanted to quit or cash out, or, or I get frustrated, or, like, you have people quit, or you have people that, like, you're going through a dry spell or like nobody's signing up. So you go through this roller coaster, but you have to just have that even keel of, just knowing that eventually you'll get better at it. Right. And so that was our 5th year for us, and it started to take off. And then, we've been there for about 7 years now, and life's been really, really good. And so it was worth the squeeze. But, again, that first 4 years was really like, just kind of building our foundation, right? Because you're going to go through a lot of different things in the business. And, whether it's people quitting, or, people not joining or getting no's, or people on your team maybe going sideways, or, you have personality conflicts, or like, you'll go through a world of stuff if you do this thing for long enough and you build a big enough team. Like, I've been through so many crazy things with our company. I can't even begin to talk about it. But again, all of this stuff, that you navigate, that you push through, it builds that muscle, right? That not quit muscle, right? And the more stuff you go through, the more developed you get, the more well-rounded you become, and really the more relatable you are, because other people are going to go through the same stuff. And so you have to be able to help them navigate that stuff. Like, you can't help people go through something that you haven't gone through yourself, right? Super effectively. It's like you've crossed the minefield, and so you've learned how to navigate it. Now you can help somebody, do it without hitting the mines, right? But you have to be willing to go through it first yourself. So that's really all I look back on those first 4 years, where, yeah, it was frustrating, but I'm super grateful for it, because I did go through so much stuff that like there's nothing that would take me out. And that's a question that I would ask yourself. That I heard at a training, and it was really powerful for me. It was, ask yourself, what would have to happen to get you to quit? Right? What is it that would have to happen to get you to quit? And figure out what those things are, because you need to just get rid of those, right? To conquer those things. And I had, again, when I asked myself that, it was like, this is a good question. Like, I don't really think there is anything that would get me to quit, but there's things that really challenged me, and that really got me in a place where I wanted to probably quit, even though I didn't actually do it. But again, once we got to the other side, you grew that muscle so much that now you can just be a much more effective leader. So the first 4 years was like building the foundation. It's just like a tree, it's like you got to have solid roots, and the more deep your roots get, the more solid you are as a tree, right? And then you can withstand all the seasons of life, because there are some people that join that have quick success, that and I've seen that plenty over the last decade, where people come in and they blow through some of the ranks, and then they hit some kind of trial or tribulation or some kind of challenge, and it just knocks them right out of the game, and you never see them again. Is because they didn't have any kind of root system. So I'm really grateful for the first 4 years of struggle, because there's literally nothing that we could go through that's gonna that we're not going to figure out, right? And I take that stuff on head on, and that stuff I pray for, and that's just kind of where my mentality's been. So anyway, that's kind of a bird's eye view of the story for us. You know, very grateful, very blessed with World Ventures. Love the company. We got some really exciting stuff coming down the pipe that you guys will probably hear about over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, it's a fun ride. So you just got to go into it with that long-term mentality, see it through. Even when you're frustrated, just press on. You got to stay around the event, stay around the campfire. You know, even when we were frustrated, at least we were still doing the stuff because it kept us around it. You know, one thing is, you know, people don't just wake up and quit World Ventures, you know, on any given day. They don't just wake up and say, oh, I'm going to quit, right? People quit World Ventures one compromise at a time, right? They skip out on this, you know, on this Sunday night call, or they miss this travel party, or they skip out on this training. And then all these little compromises eventually get us to a point where we're so far removed from the campfire that we just can't find our way back. And that's how people quit. They just kind of fade off, right? And so we have to stay around it even when we don't want to, right? We have to do the things even when we don't feel like doing it, because, I mean, again, that's success. Success is not doing stuff, you know, when you feel like it. Otherwise, nobody would ever have success. I mean, I don't feel like, and there's plenty of times I didn't feel like doing the business. There's plenty of times I didn't feel like going to the training, but we went because it's a discipline, right? And if you're disciplined, that stuff will show up on the other end. So anyway, that's kind of the story. But yeah, I know we want to go do some Q&A and address some specific things for you guys. So I want to open it up for that so I can help you guys in any way that I can.
Well, first of all, I feel like we just got a training out of 15 minutes right there. I took a page of notes, so thank you. But we'll definitely open it up for some training. So just pop off of mute and go ahead and ask Zoe a question.
First of all, I'll go, woo! Give me some excitement. Thank you so much, Zoe. You know, we're in Iowa, so you're probably familiar with Jeremy Larson. That was the IMD of the state of Iowa, and since then I feel like we're the last breed of the Hudo maniacs. And anyways, not to touch too much on that, but you know, some of us here are from Team Wolf, and we feel as though, you know, we don't really have that Jeremy Larson, that David Peach, that David Helgeson in our area, to where we are giving people a lifestyle that they want. So we feel as though we're running into, we're working extremely hard, but we're trying to figure out the best way to display that for people, the excitement behind going to work with each other and building a common vision. And I feel like you and the Rat Pack, where you guys kind of generated that on your own. I don't know. I guess we're looking, my question is what would you believe would be the best way for a group that doesn't really have that IMD, that NMD, RMD, to team up together to really create something in a market where, you know, it's basically, you know, there's nothing really too much going on from that standpoint, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, for sure. And I really think that, you know, sometimes that biggest limitation we have in our own mind ends up being like the best advantage to us, you know, in the long haul. Cause, you know, cause it really starts with you guys. Like, this year has been a challenge for a whole mess of people. So, you know, I've just been challenged with people like, you know, just stay on point, you know, even if you're not, you know, growing by leaps and bounds, at least keep doing it. Keep the discipline going, because eventually, you know, once this year's behind us, you know, and, you know, the lockdowns lift and people are back in living rooms doing travel parties, all that stuff, you know, the people that have been staying on it are going to be the ones that grow the fastest coming out of that. And so we'll get to that point, because there's, you know, again, we're going to go through all different seasons of life as we build this business, and it's different seasons for everybody at any given time. But it really just starts with you guys, you know, the consistency, you know, edifying each other, because you don't need these big monsters. I mean, you know, at the end of the day, the people that are joining, you know, they relate more with the new person story than the IMD story all day long, right? Because, you know, like, it's not like all the IMD stuff, that sounds cool, but for a person that's seeing it for the first time, that's living paycheck to paycheck, that, you know, has never even thought about getting rich, like, they're going to relate with somebody who just got their or just made their first $500 or made their first $1,000. Like, those are the most powerful stories all day long. And then you can share the bigger stories just to give them that long-term belief, right? And that's all we did, because the best thing that happened to us here in Denver was there was nobody doing it, right? Like, we did, like, our closest upline IMD was Don Morton, you know, he's out in Arizona. And so he was only out here a few times a year, and that was after we started doing something. And so we really had to figure it out, like learn how to present, because we didn't have videos and stuff. And we had to learn how to, be consistent with our travel parties and promote the trainings. And so it was really a grind those first couple of years, just kind of building up that foundation and just learning the business as a whole. But it ended up being the best thing for us, because once we started to get it going, and we got the team rolling, like we had our own culture, even though it started small, we were able to build on that, started creating our own success stories within the team that we were able to point to. Because in the beginning, we were just going through the magazines, sharing everybody else's stories, telling people, hey, this is where we're going. Here's people that have already done it. So hinging on other people's stories until we had our own to share. But again, us being by ourselves ended up making us so much more independent and so much more, just grew our own leadership lid so much more, because we had to figure it out. So it's kind of like a do or die deal. And then, now we can have Don or other people come in just to pour some gas on the fire. But it was nice getting to a point where we didn't need any of that stuff. So with the situation that you guys, are in out there, I mean, yeah, it's going to be the best thing for you that some of these other people kind of faded off, into the distance, because it just opens up more room for other people to step up and do that themselves and be that person, that guy or that girl, and go create a whole nother wave. Because there's a ton of people there's so many people that have no idea what we do. Sometimes social media is deceiving because it's an echo chamber, right? And so you're only seeing the people that you interact with. And so I just encourage people all the time, like, go try to get into different groups. Like, I guarantee you, like some people that I grew up with that are not in World Ventures, that don't know anybody in World Ventures, when they get on their Facebook, they don't see any World Venture stuff, right? And there's a whole lot of people that are like that. We just see it so much. So it's easy to get to a point where, where we think like, oh, we feel like everybody knows about it, but that's just within our own circles, right? So you start getting into these different groups. There's a ton of people that have no idea what we do, that once you crack into some of these networks, boom, you got a whole new line of business that starts to go. And then you guys create, again, that you recreate that culture and something that you guys get to drive the train on. But it'll end up being the best thing for you. It's just a matter of, again, you guys just making it happen, doing the deal, being consistent with it. And as you guys do that, that's what builds your credibility. And then eventually, once you start getting some of those sparks, you just pour the gas on it. And then again, you'll look back and, hey, you're thankful for it. But again, there's plenty of opportunity out there. It's just a matter of just keep doing what you're doing. And, I wouldn't even think about any of those guys in the past. Thank them for bringing it to the table. But at the end of the day, you guys can go build it bigger and badder and 10X it all day long. Because, you guys got everything that it takes.
Thank you.
Awesome. Who else has some questions for Zoe? Otherwise, I have a lot.
I got one.
Okay.
My name is Dustin. I'm in Minnesota area. My upline is the Hugginsons, if you know who they are. My biggest thing is, when do you stop inviting the same person? So like you invite one person and stuff, and they seem a little tentative about it and stuff like that, but they don't really give you a good answer if it's a yes or a no, if they're actually going to jump on the Zoom call or not. So
I got you. Yeah. That's a good question. So don't scratch, until they've seen it front to back, don't scratch them off the list. I wouldn't get too fixated on one person where you stop inviting other people, right? But sometimes, it's just you got to change up the pitch a little bit, it's like baseball. Instead of throwing them a fastball, throw them a curveball, throw them a changeup. And so you just got to take the angle. And I was grateful that, way back in the day we learned that, you're like, we don't sell World Ventures here. We sell, 30-minute block of time. Like you're just selling an appointment. So you're just trying to get people in front of the information. So by any means necessary, outside of obviously lying to them or bait and switch and stuff, but like, sometimes you just got to change it up. So like with a lot of my, it depends on the relationship. A lot of my friends that I grew up with that I was having a hard time getting to look at it. A lot of times, you want to make it like with them, make it personal. So if I ever had anybody that was trying to give me grief about coming to a travel party or something, I was just like, listen, man, like we've known each other for a long time. We grew up together, this, that, and the other. Like if you called me up, even if I was out of the blue and just said, hey, I got something you got to see, like I'd come check it out just because it's you asking, right? And so I'm just asking for the same respect. I don't care if you like what I'm doing. I don't care if you join. I just care that you see it, right? So you know what I'm up to. And, so you make it personal, like it's a thing, like you're doing something for me versus coming to see like this arbitrary thing. You know, that, you know, there were some people that were real stubborn with me where, you know, I was like, listen, like we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Like the easy way is you hop on the Zoom, you come to this travel party and check out what I'm doing and you tell me no. But you can't tell me no till you see it. Hard way is I'm going to bother you every day, literally for the rest of your life until you check it out. Because again, it's not important to me. Like, just take the pressure off them. Like, it's not important to me that you join. It's just important to me that you look, right? Because even if it's not for you, maybe you know somebody that it might be for, right? But just no pressure. Like, leave your card at home. I mean, I know they're hopping on a Zoom, but you know, whatever. But with the Zooms, you know, even if it's again, you just try to find a way to make it personal. You know, change up the angle a little bit. But again, a lot of times if you just take the pressure off of them and, you know, it's like, hey, you just, you know, get on there for me so you can see what it is that I'm doing. You know, if you don't like it, no harm, no foul, but just, you know, give me 10 minutes of your life, check it out and then see if it strikes a chord with you. And if not, you know, no big deal. So I have found that doing that with a lot of people, you know, I was able to get most of them to check it out. If there were some people that were just, you know, super dumb about it, it's like, whatever, you know, go fly a kite, you know, you can just watch what I'm doing. Eventually they'll come back and ask you what you're up to if they follow you enough. So don't chase them too much, but you know, sometimes you just got to change up the angle a little bit.
All right, I saw Brandon hopped off of mute. So you have a question?
Yeah, I do. Well, first I want to go and give a little statement here. So what you said about, you know, the new people sharing their testimonials, sharing their first trip, I've seen that so many times. The best enrollment I ever did was not for myself, but for somebody else. I was at a big shot meeting. Jeremy Larson was doing it in St. Louis. And I just gave my first mega, you know, my big dream trip testimonial to Disney. And after the event, lady I didn't know, she came up to me crying. She goes, I'm going to go and do this because I've always wanted to take my kids to Disney. And you showed me that we can make this happen. That was awesome. I had no idea who she was. Don't know who invited her. I was like, you know, gave her a hug. It's like, great, you know, let's get back with the person, you know, who brought you here and, you know, let's make this happen for you. So yeah, definitely, you know, the people that can relate to you, you know, like I just got in, you know, I haven't taken a trip yet. You know, what can we do? You know, this guy's taking one trip. I can be like him. That's big. My question for you is, when you got in, you said you made $8,000 in your first year, you know, and things were moving really slow for you. What was that kept you going?
Yeah, for sure. Really, honestly, it was just like coming to the trainings, you know, like that we had trainings every month. And so we committed to going to those. And so it was really just staying around it, you know, so the more we stayed around it, you know, it was like, you know, we'd leave a training and then, you know, you've got a certain amount of juice left in you, kind of like, you know, it's like you can be the best phone in the world, but if you don't plug it in, eventually it's going to die. So it's like we were on this 30-day window of, you know, we've got so much juice left in us. And then, you know, from going through the meetings and you get some yeses, you get some no's, you get beat up a little bit. And then getting to that next training just kind of refuels you and recenters you and gets you back on track. So it was really just staying around it. And I remember, again, at those first trainings, hearing that, like, you know, the people saying, like, you're going to go through these different things, different emotions. And so you have to stay plugged into the trainings. And if you stay plugged into the trainings, it gives you enough life left to press on. And eventually you're going to find, you know, the right people. You're going to hit some of these sparks that take your business to the next level. You just have to be engaged enough and in the process enough to actually experience those things instead of just kind of fading off into the distance. And so that's really what, you know, just staying around it, you know, that kept us on point. And then really, you know, just that, because I had, and granted, I screwed it up with a lot of my close buddies in the beginning trying to explain too much of it, but I had a handful of my buddies that talked so much smack in the beginning where it was just like, listen, you know, that stuff motivates me more than I could tell you. So if it was, you know, if I was to quit, it would be affirming, you know, to them, their own beliefs in it, that, you know, that they were right. And I could not bring myself to do that. Right. It's like either you're going to be right or I'm going to be right. Somebody's going to be right. And I'm not going to be wrong. Right. So we're just going to make this thing happen. So that stuff, you know, really, really fueled the flame a lot. But yeah, it was really just staying around the events and staying plugged in until we ran into the right people that could take the business to the next level for us.
Perseverance. I love it.
All right, Josh, I believe you're next.
Yeah. What up, Zoe? This is Josh West out of Dallas. So I have like a two-part question. So I feel like I've been in for like 4 years, but I feel like I'm getting my second win, especially with everything that went on this year. My second win. So what I would ask you is, what would your daily activities look like for that second win? And then second question is, I kind of struggle with promoting the trainings. Like, what did you do in order to get better at promoting training, and how did you get your team to the trainings?
Yeah, no, great questions. As far as daily activity, just do something that you can commit to every day, simple stuff. And, obviously, the personal growth, work that in there, your 10 pages, 10 minutes of audio, but really, get the activity in. And a lot of times I think a big mistake a lot of people make is they set, they have this, these goals, but they set these outrageous like activity goals and commitments where they're like, I'm going to go show 10 people a day. And, they've never done that before, but this is their new commitment. And then what happens is they go, to show the 10 people that day, and maybe they showed one, maybe they didn't show anybody. And so because they didn't hit that 10, it derails them, right? Because they get discouraged and then they completely get off track, and then it goes, 2 or 3 weeks without actually doing anything. So start small and then grow from there. So just, it's like, whether it's, reach out to 5 people a day, or try to get 1 exposure in a day, or get 5 exposures in a week, some basic stuff that you can commit to and follow through on, right? Because it's an effort thing. And then as you do that, that's going to build results for you. And then you can build, bigger activities on top of that, but don't do something outrageous out of the gates that you just can't commit to because it'll knock you off track. So that would be just my activity, whatever it is you can commit to every day realistically, and then build on that. And then as far as the promoting goes, promote early and often, right? I mean, every travel party, every Zoom I do, every 3-way call, every conversation I ever have, I'm always talking about the next training. I'm always throwing a plug in for it, right? And so if you do it early, you've got plenty of time to work on people, right? Because you plant that seed with them. I think a lot of the people that don't come to trainings don't come because nobody told them about it, right? And so, so you've got to talk about it all of the time. And then also to that front, promoting and like leadership is more stuff that is caught than it is taught. Meaning, people they're gonna do what you do. It's kind of like my kids, right? My kids, I got a 4-year-old and I got a 2-year-old, and I could sit there and tell them what to do all day long, and they kind of, it's like they flip me the bird almost. They don't do that, but that's kind of what I'm getting from them. They don't want to do anything I tell them to do, but they copy everything I do, and they say the things that I say, right? And whether that's good or bad, that's what they copy. And so your team does the same thing. If they hear you talking about the training all of the time, they're going to just naturally start to do that. And as that happens, that's how you get that multiplying effort of people on your team promoting. And then by that, result, you get more people at the trainings, and then the team starts to grow. And if you promote early and often, not only do you have time to work on people, but I just bulldog people. I mean, in my mindset is, if I don't get them to a training, they're probably going to quit anyway. So I'm either going to push them to the training, or I'm almost going to push them out of the business, right? Now, I'm not going to tell them to quit and stuff, but my mentality is I'm going to push them so hard where it's going to be one or the other, because I know if I get them there, they're going to be grateful for it. I've never had somebody at the end of a training say, this was like the worst weekend of my life. You wasted my time. Like, that's never happened. But I have had people that went there, pissing and moaning about it, right? Because I pushed them and they didn't understand it. And then at the end of the weekend, they're giving me hugs and kisses and stuff, saying, wow, this is the best weekend I've ever had in my life. Thank you so much for pushing me. And so, so I'm just relentless with it. And just, I guess one tangible thing you could do is ask people, not, when you're promoting it, I always ask people, not yes or no questions like, hey, can you come to the training? Can you get on the training? Because that's a yes or a no. The question I ask is, what do you need to do to get on the training, right? What would need to happen to get you out to this event with us? Because that's not a yes or a no. That would be a stupid response, right? They have to actually think of an answer. And when you ask them, how can you get there, they will start to think of how they can get there and start to come up with solutions. And so always ask people how they can get to the event, or what's it going to take, because they have to think about it. Then you can start coming up with solutions, and then you help navigate them in that way. And because when you're getting people in the business, you're sorting, some will, some won't. So what? When you're getting people to trainings, you're selling, right? You're pulling out all the stops, because if you can get them there, then they have a chance of multiplying, because it's all about how many people on your team can you get World Ventures inside of them, right? It's not about how many people we got on the team. It's how many people have World Ventures inside of them, because those are the ones that are really going to go build it. And you just got to be a bulldog with it. And, and it's okay to push people if you're pushing them in the right direction. And I just know in my heart of hearts, if I don't get them there, then I did a disservice to them, right? And I mean, if I get them there, then there's so much more possibility that comes from that. So I don't feel bad for pushing people, because I know their life's going to be better for it, as opposed to not being there.
Awesome. Before we get to the next question, Zoe, are you able to stay on for like 20 more minutes? Does that work?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, perfect. Allie, I believe you are next.
Oh, sorry. Hi. Okay, I have two questions. One is, when and how did you allow God into your World Ventures life? And then also, how do you do this with your partner? How do you build with your significant other?
Yeah, for sure. As far as faith building and stuff, I think we just kind of just naturally started doing that. I'm trying to think. There was never really a separation of it. Obviously you don't want to jam that stuff down people's throats, but just trying to be a good example, and then finding opportunities to bring our faith into it, right? So that's, as you guys build your business and build the team, that's a big part of it. Is it, if you build the people, then the people will build the business. And so as we grow these teams, you start, you have influence with people because you're the team leader. So people are edifying you. So you naturally have some credibility with them. And so as we grow, on those individual meetings you have with people, just finding a time to bring up your faith and kind of open up that conversation and just kind of see where that goes. And so it was always more of a one-on-one thing for me as I was growing my team. And then when I'm doing trainings and stuff like that, I'll work in, some faith related things so that people kind of know where I stand on that. And so that's kind of, just kind of using that platform that we've got to, spread the good news, spread the good word with people. And then as far as building it with my wife, the dynamics changed over the years. I know when we first met, I met her at a travel party, so that's how we, she joined, and then I met her and decided that was going to be my wife someday. So hopefully she was feeling the same thing, and that ended up working out. But so we, at that phase in our life, we were both building it, and then once we got married and as we started building the family, that relationship's evolved a little bit, where she's kind of taken the more, the full-time mom route and kind of, keeping the, just running the household and that stuff related. And then I'm, 100% on the business. And so that's kind of what it's evolved to. And then she'll, I guess her role in the business is more of, if she's meeting people or connecting with people online, she's really good at edifying me and teeing me up with people. So she's not going to be the one that's doing presentations and all this stuff, and being like in the, in the trenches, so to speak, but she's really good at connecting with people and just teeing me up with people, that I can start doing presentations with and kind of running with them. So we've kind of got that good little tag team there. And so, yeah, that's kind of how that's all evolved. So go ladies.
Who has another question for Lorenzo? Otherwise, I can say some of mine. Nobody?
Rip them off, Kylie, because I'm a big mouth. I got a ton of questions.
Okay. I guess so. What was the most important thing, or like the biggest change from when you went from, making like a regular amount of money to just making a lot more money? Like, what was the most consistent thing that you did over time to get you to IMD?
Really just doing the deal. Like the first 4 years is kind of a blur to me, because it was just, we just did it. We go to all the trainings, we're doing the presentations, we just did what we were supposed to do. And then, like the people that joined, cool. The ones that didn't, cool. We'd have some emotional ups and downs, but we just, did what we were supposed to do week in and week out. And sometimes it was a little bit, sometimes it was more, but we were at least doing something. And I can honestly say, like, there's not been really a season in my life that I haven't been doing something with World Ventures. Now I've got certain seasons where I'm going full throttle, and there's some where I'm more or less, I don't want to say maintaining, but I'm doing a little bit less than, full throttle season. But yeah, and then, we just did that and then got promoted to trainings. And I mean, I've built my entire business just around promoting trainings and just kind of letting that be the magic sauce, because I got a lot of people on my team that are way better at it than me. But what I got good at is just getting them in the environment, right? Like we have people, whether it's people I sponsored or just certain levels down in the team, just making sure that their butts are in the seats at the trainings, because that's what's going to really unlock everything for them. So I just got good at that portion of it. And then, you know, and again, you get people that leave the training that just start doing it without you, which is really what you want. You just got to get them in the environment for that stuff to take place. And I mean, then as we've grown, you know, I mean, you know, on the financial side of stuff, you know, as you guys grow in your income, grow in your business, stuff like that, you know, I'm grateful that in the beginning that we learned how to be a good steward of not a whole lot, right? You know, so it was, you know, living below our means, you know, not overspending, not trying to keep up with the Joneses. And so as our checks got bigger, things didn't really change, because before the money came in, I already knew where the money was going, right? So whether it was to, you know, to my tithing, whether it was to my savings, whether it was to my taxes, depending on where my income was at, you know, and my bills, like, well, I had a plan for my money before it came in. And so, so as my income has grown, all of that, the percentages and all that stuff has stayed the same. It's a bigger chunk of money, right? But I'm detached, you know, you know, when I was not making a lot of money, you know, it's like I give a certain amount, I save a certain amount. And so, I'm detached from a certain percentage of my income. And so as it's gotten bigger, even though those numbers have gotten bigger, I'm not attached to it. So it's not really a different thing for me. And, you know, we've just tried to continue to live below our means. And that's probably one of the bigger things I'm grateful that I learned early on from Byron and some of these guys, was, you know, just to not overspend and save for the rainy days and live below your means. Because if you do that, you know, it's like, it's not World Ventures that's going to make you rich. While you can make a bunch of money, it's going to be what you do with that money that ends up making you rich. And so just being a good steward of that stuff as you grow, because you don't want to get to a point where, you know, where it's like you're not saving for taxes and then you got the IRS all on you, which is not a good thing, or, you know, or you spent too much money and then you go through a winter season financially, and then, you know, now you're trying to sell all these different things that you didn't really need to go, you know, get the things that you do need. So, so just, you know, trying to have that mentality long term of having a plan for the money before it comes in, and then as your income grows, awesome, you know, but you've got the habits that are built in there and the disciplines that you know, that keep you ahead of the 8 ball, really, no matter what's going on.
Perfect. Who else has a question? I know you all have a lot of questions, so pop on.
Yeah, I do want to give a quick shout out to the whole team here that's on. Guys, we have some people, quite a bit of people with Get Paid Nation and Team Throttle and all that. So, guys, you know, we invited you, and we do want you to be able to have the floor to answer questions. You know, you guys are family just as much. A lot of you I directly talk to, and Kylie directly talks to. So, please do feel free to ask a question. I'll start off with the next question, but guys, as you're kind of lingering with whatever you may have, please feel free to come off mute. So how are you closing? What's your, so 2-part question. What is your close? I'm sure you switch it up from person to person, but generally speaking, probably what you're training on. And then are you training differently the path to success now compared to when we didn't have 3-star rep and 2-star rep and 1-star rep, when we only had really, you know, a senior rep and director that were the first residual ranks?
Right. Yeah, as far as like the training stuff, I don't really get into much of that. I mean, my stuff's always been, you know, the same pretty much throughout. It's, you know, when we get them in, let's get your list, let's start getting some invites, let's start getting some, you know, let's get the activity going, right? Let's get people in motion, because if we can get them a few wins, then we got something to build on. And so that's always been it. And then I let this, you know, the team trainings or the Saturday trainings or the big events, train them on that stuff, you know, unless we get together and they've got those specific questions, I can kind of walk them through, but it's never really like a point of focus for me. It's like, let's just go get them one, right? Because if you can get them one, that feels good, and then they want to do it again, right? So we want to get them a quick win as fast as possible and capitalize on that first 3 days that they're in while they're excited. Because if you wait a week, you know, you almost got to re-sign them up mentally, because the spark is gone, right? So you want to take action as fast as you can. And then as far as my close, I try to keep it simple. I mean, obviously you've got the, you know, are you ready to get started? But typically what I do, because I don't do a lot of group presentations on Zoom, you know, because we haven't got a ton of results from those. I do a ton of the one-on-one stuff, or the two-on-one stuff rather. because then I've got more control over that exposure, and we try to duplicate that throughout the team. But I as soon as I'm done with the presentation, all I do is because my goal is to get them in as a member first. However strategy you guys use is how you use it, but so stick with that. But I want to get them in first, and then we can go, get their 4, or they can do the rep now, or they can do it later. It doesn't really matter to me. But as soon as we're done to get them in, I'll say, cool, did you like the travel side, the money side, a little bit of both? They'll tell me whatever they say. It's always something. It's one of those 2 or both. And then, if they say I don't like it, then, the conversation's pretty much going to stop there. But most people don't say I didn't like it. And so they'll say whatever, and they'll say, okay, cool. Go download, go download the Dream Trips app. And I'm just going to assume that they're joining, because on the low end, it's $25. There's not a whole lot of hardcore closing you need to do. I just assume they're going to join. So it's like, here, go down, minimize me on Zoom, go download the Dream Trips app. All right, once you see that, go click the, become a member button, and then it'll take you to the website, and then there'll be another one that says become a member. So click that. And I'll tell my person I'm doing the meeting for, I'll say, hey, have your ID ready. So when they pull up where it says, become a member, or sponsor ID, whatever, I'll say, tell them your ID number. So I'll have them punch it in. I'll say, cool, click to the next one, and then go fill this out real quick, and then let me know when you're done, and then go click silver. So I just kind of walk them through it as if they're signing up. And, if you just start doing that, it's just crazy. It's like some people they continue it, and then you say, cool, submit. Because again, it's only $25. And so I do that. That's how I close it. And then if they stop me halfway through and they got some questions, I might answer those. But a lot of times they just end up signing up. And then if they, and then as we're going through that, if they don't want to do it, then they'll just stop and say, hey, I want to go think about it, or, I'm not ready to sign up now, which I'm just like, whatever, it's $25. Like, if you're in, get in. If you're not, it's $25, But I just assume the sale, have them download the app and just walk them through it right then and there without asking them if they want to get in. I just assume they're getting in.
Awesome. Who else has a question? Otherwise, I'll give another one of my questions.
Hey.
There we go.
Lady D, go for it, girl.
So I was definitely about to ask a closing question. So instead, I'll ask, what do you, or I know I talk about who work. I know you mentioned your wife that was getting a lot of prospecting and so much and so forth. In your earlier years, like you on your own, how did you do your prospecting? And what was your most successful invite?
Hey, Delisha.
Yeah, for sure. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Zoe. I was just gonna say, unless you caught that, Zoe, I was gonna say Delisha is kind of hard to hear.
Yeah, I got the gist of it, and then you can jump in, Alicia, if I didn't get it right. But from what I gathered, it was the prospecting, the inviting, that stuff related to that. But so obviously when people are new, it's gonna be a long time before we go through their entire network of people. So we got to dig through that as much as we can. But along the way, as you've been in it for long enough, like I've been in it, I think virtually everybody I know has seen it or knows about it that I grew up with. And so you meet people along the way, but and everybody's different. I just encourage people to do the things that you're in your comfort zone with. Like me, I'm a gym rat, so that's just kind of my place of posture, if you will. So that's where I've met a lot of the people that I've enrolled or prospected and enrolled. And there's kind of, you kind of do what works for you. Some people are really good at meeting somebody, building rapport with them right away and signing them up, showing them right away and then signing them up. And then there's the taking the more methodical route of it, of building the relationship up, making a friend out of them, and then showing them when it feels right. So that's all, I've done it. What I learned was that, not only do people need to trust you enough to give you their credit card information, right? But they also need to trust you enough to put you in front of their friends. And so if they don't know that you're not a jackwagon, they're going to be apprehensive to put you in front of people, regardless of what you think of yourself. And so what I have found was, because I've done it both ways, there's people I've met right away, and it's always been at the gym. I literally, there's people online and stuff that I might meet and connect with, but I meet so many people at the gym where, and those of you that go to the gym regularly, you probably know what I'm talking about, where you go to the same time every day, you see a lot of the same people. So, you kind of you kind of make friends with people without actually ever talking to them. And then once you say hey to them one day, like all of a sudden you're best buddies, you throw them a compliment, whatever. And so that's just where I've met a lot of my my prospects. And then I'll make a friend out of them, and then I'll show them whenever that time feels right for me. And it might be a week, it might be a couple of months. It's different for everybody. But what I've learned was, because I've met people that I've shown right away and signed up right away. But so I've done it that way. And then there's people that I've met, taken some time, and then signed them up. And I've gotten way more production out of people that I took a little while to make a friend with, because what happens is, now not only do they need to trust you enough to put you in front of people, but what I've learned is that people, if you're not friends with them, not to say that you need to spend all of this time trying to befriend people. What I'm saying is, if you haven't built a bridge with people where you have rapport and a friendship there on some level, when they get their first no, or they get their first rejection, it's so easy for them to quit, because they're not losing anything. They're not burning a bridge. Like, if I've made a friend with somebody, it's a lot harder for them to quit, because they feel like they're burning a bridge with me. And so a lot of times they stay in longer, and they'll go through the process a little bit longer to actually have those breakthroughs. And so I know the ones that I've spent more time building rapport with, building a relationship with, not only do they put me in front of people faster, but they stay in a lot longer. And a lot of those people ended up being some of my rock stars that didn't hit it right out of the gates, when they first joined, but once they figured it out, they started ripping it. But it was because we had that friendship, and they didn't want to let me down. And so, long story short, yeah, I've met a lot of people at the gym. I'll make friends with them, and then whenever it feels right, I'll show them. And then, not I'll get everybody, but the ones that join, I've gotten a lot more out of a few people doing it that way than going and just recruiting a whole bunch of people and just throwing them in the system that I don't really have any kind of relationship with. And again, everybody has different skills that they're good at with that, but that's just kind of where it's worked best for me.
Awesome. Kelton, I believe you took your mute off. Do you have a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Thanks for having me on. Zoe, appreciate you doing everything that you're doing right now. I had a question. I'm pretty young. I'm 23, and I've been in almost coming up 3 years now, and I've gone through a lot of my hot market, but still have warm market and cold market left, obviously. And I'm looking more to recruit up, because I've seen that like a lot of my friends are just looking for that big instant result. So I'm looking to recruit up, which I got a lot of advice on. What did you do, if you did that, to recruit up at a young age where you didn't have that that leadership developed yet, but people could see that you were a pretty good guy, or had that character? I know I have to build my leadership up more, but what would you do for the time being if you're signing people up that have like more success in life than you, or more experience, to keep them in and grow them as you grow?
Yeah, it's a good question. I just got really good at connecting them with my upline. Like, there was a lot of my friends that I didn't care if they joined or not, but I wanted to get their parents in. And, so I would, when I was showing my friends' parents, or just anybody that was, that was older than me, that was in a different phase of their life, whether they had a career or a business, whatever, just more successful than I was, I just got really good at connecting them with my upline, and that would have been like Don or Byron, or just somebody that they could relate with. And so I kind of take myself out of the equation in the exposure, connect them, let them relate, because they're going to listen to that person probably more than they're going to listen to me. And then once they get them in, Don or Byron was really good at edifying me as somebody that they can go work with. And so I never really had a problem getting those people to work with me, because I was edified so well by those people. And obviously they were a resource for them as well. But that's really, I just got good at playing matchmaker and not making myself the issue when I was trying to recruit up. And then obviously as our team started to grow, as we got older, and as our income started to grow, we grew, more and more credibility just by ourselves. But I just really tried to use the aces that I had that were already in, that I could connect them with, to start, kind of expanding our network. Because when we got in, we were signing up a lot of our college buddies, but it was like churn and burn, right? We get them out, they quit real quick. So it was we were always just kind of sorting, if you will. And so, or we'd grow a team in the spring and the fall when we were in school, and then summer and winter hit, and our team would just fall apart because everybody goes back home and spreads out and just, is away from the campfire. So I just got tired of that. And I was like, man, I got to, diversify my team a little bit, start showing some more successful people. So once I started being more proactive on that, and then connecting them with the Dons and the Byrons, or just anybody they can relate with. It didn't have to be a top level person. I was able to get those people in, start building with them a little bit, and it kind of stabilized our team a little bit in terms of, attrition and people quitting and stuff. And then we were able to find some good ones through that we could build through, and then, eventually get to, where we're at now.
That was a great question, and I liked it. Anybody else have a question? We'll do maybe one or two more questions, and then let Zoe get back to his family. Anyone? All right, I have a question. I've been watching a lot of your YouTube training videos, and you talk a lot about when you make the decision to do World Ventures. Maybe can you go a little bit deeper into what the decision means and has meant for you? Obviously, you're going to have a lot more struggles after you make the decision, but can you go in a little more depth about that for us?
Yeah, for sure. And it's really, for me, it's just real simple because, again, it's like you go to an event and then it really gets inside of you. And that's what opens up the door for people to make decisions, right? So like a saying goes, like, people make big decisions at big events. Like, people make the decisions in the group settings when they see, their belief is up, they're on cloud nine, they see other people that are fired up about it. So that's when people make the decision that they're actually going to go build this thing. And that's what it was for me. I was excited, but I went to that first training in that week and I was like, man, this is what I want to do. And mentally, turn the switch on, like making that decision, like, this is what I'm going to go do. And what it meant to me was that, it's, again, you do the thing that you said you were going to do long after the mood you set it in has passed. And so it doesn't matter what you feel like in any given moment, but you're just going to go do the deal. It's just like getting married. It's like I got my wife, we've been married for about 6.5 years now. And there's probably plenty of times where she's pissed me off, and there's plenty of times where I've pissed her off, because that's just kind of part of the deal. And as we've gone through that, it's like you hinge on that decision you made. You hinge on that covenant. We didn't get married and say, oh, we'll see how it goes. We'll give it like 6 months, and if we still like each other, then we'll stay together. It was like, no, like, we're either going to do this or we're not, and we're in it for the long haul. And, between here and there, it's just a matter of navigating whatever those situations are, however easy or hard they are. But you just hinge on that decision you made. So you're just going to go do it, and just get better at it, right? So there was really no exit strategy for me in World Ventures. It was like, I'm just going to go do it until we figure it out. And, it might piss me off along the way, but again, I decided I'm going to do this thing. So there just can't be a quit in you. And so that's just what it meant for me, is just doing it no matter how you feel until you figure it out. And then, and you just get better at it along the way. Just like anything else you do. It's like if you do something long enough, you're going to get good at it. Some people move a little faster than others, but, just staying long enough to figure that out.
Awesome. Well, we definitely respect you and are happy that you joined our call today, and we thank you for your time. Everybody could come off mute and say thank you to Lorenzo, and just let him know.
Hey, thank you guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Zoe.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank
Let's do it. We got it. We got a big week coming.
Thank you.
Stay tuned. We got some big news coming over the next week.
Thanks, bro.
Absolutely. Thanks. So see you at the next event,
Love you
guys.
guys. We'll see you.